Well, I learned a little bit more than what I already knew, but Skip, I thought the Warriors had the best team in basketball. I believe now I'm more convinced that they do have the best team in basketball.
And by the way, Klay Thompson is about to come back.
And so is James Wiseman. He's going to be back shortly thereafter.
There you go.
Skip, and I think the thing is we need to recognize we've done a disservice to him. Because of Steph Curry.
Okay.
Because of Kevin Durant and his greatness, and we're not going to take that away from KD. Because of Giannis Antetokounmpo and his greatness, back-to-back MVPs, Defensive Player of the Year, won the title, Finals MVP. And LeBron James goes without saying. They've overshadowed Steph, and I think we've minimized his greatness. And we saw that on full display last night, Skip. And I believe the team that they have out there now, once they get Klay back, Skip, will be better than the teams that Steve Kerr first took to the finals because they have better shooters than what they have. I believe Steph is a better player than what, if you can believe that, than what he was when they won their first two titles. He's on a different, it's like the game has always seemed easy, but it seems easier because they have better shooters around him now. And that's not with that's with Klay not being able to play in almost 2 years. If Klay comes back at 80% of what he was when he left, Skip, I think there should be the prohibitive favorite. Skip, but when you look at what Steph is doing, he led the league in scoring. And, you know, after the KD left, he broke his wrist. And you know how it goes in sports, Skip. Out of sight, out of mind. That's how it kind of goes with anything. And people forgot just how great he is. And people, what they've done is because he doesn't have any finals MVP, they said, well, he's terrible in the playoffs. No, he has not been terrible in the playoffs. The year Andre Iguodala got finals MVP, Steph Curry was 26 points, 6 and 5. That's what he averaged when they lost the 3-1 lead. This is what he did in 2017. In the NBA Finals, Steph Curry averaged 27, 8, and 9. What he did in 2018, he was 27 and a half, 6 and 7. And in the finals that Kevin Durant got hurt, he averaged 35 and 6. So this notion that Steph Curry has been a no-show in the playoffs is just not true. Kevin Durant, just because Kevin Durant played so well, that does not mean that Steph Curry did not play well. And I think sometimes we do that. We think because somebody else is doing something good, somebody else has to be doing something bad. No. Kevin Durant deserved to win Finals MVP, but the notion that Steph Curry was just along for the ride is just not true. The notion that he's been along for the ride in the playoffs is just not true. And I told you yesterday, I said, Skip, he's going to come out and try to get 40 because he wants to show the world, because everybody was convinced. They've convinced themselves, oh, KD made Steph. Nah. He said, bro, I had 2 MVPs before KD set foot in San Francisco. I went to 2 finals before KD even got there. Y'all better give me my respect. Pay me my adulation that I so rightfully deserve. They're the best team in basketball, and they should be the favorites. I don't think Fox Bet still doesn't have them as the favorite, but they should be number 3 in offensive efficiency, number 1 in defensive efficiency. And that's without Wiseman. Well, that's without Klay. And we know Klay is an all-NBA defensive player, Skip. They legit.
Okay, I give you they are legit, but let's be very clear about something straight up right off the top. Kevin Durant made Steph Curry in the postseason. Steph Curry realized after he blew a 3-1 lead to your team, the Kyrie LeBron Cavaliers, that he had no choice but to go all the way to the tip of Long Island to recruit Kevin Durant to please come save me and save us. Draymond, Steph, they all just said, we need you. And that's what happened. He rode shotgun to Kevin Durant to 2 more titles in which Kevin Durant was the MVP of the NBA Finals. Period. End of story. I don't want to even hear any more about it.
Can I ask you a question?
Thank you.
If they stay put, if Kevin Durant stays in OKC, Steph Curry stays in Golden State, who gets to the NBA Finals first again?
What do you think of Russell Westbrook? What do you think of him? He has been Kevin's decision to leave has been validated by what's happening to your Lakers at this moment. Thank you.
You know what? I'll concede that.
Yes.
He wasn't going to get there with Russell Westbrook. But I believe if Kevin Durant goes anywhere else, I still believe Steph Curry beats him back to the NBA Finals.
All right, back to what happened last night. Kevin Durant, who I believe, because I know, is still the best player on the planet, he started off just like the best player on the planet. He scored 12 in the first quarter, effortlessly, easily, Kevin Durant style. And at one point, would you believe that the home team, the Brooklyn Nets, were up 9 with 4:23 left in the first quarter? They were up 25-16 because Kevin Durant was going Kevin Durant on the Golden State Warriors.
Right.
And yet, every time the Warriors would score, every time Steph would make a three, a wow bomb, I would hear this incredible roar at Barclays, and I'd say, what was that? I don't get it. I don't really understand it. Is something wrong with my audio on my television?
No, nothing wrong with your audio.
No. Somehow the Warriors fans had taken over Barclays. I don't get it.
Right.
But in New York City, in those 5 boroughs, there is a heavy, strong, leather-lung contingent of Steph Curry idolaters. Mm-hmm. And they took the arena. Oh, I don't know how do you get the tickets? I don't know. Are some of Nets Nation down on this Brooklyn team?
Yep.
It's a little hard to love it right now without Kyrie and with the Kyrie cloud, the unvaccinated cloud hanging over this whole show as we speak.
What, Skip? The Nets doesn't have the fan base, say, like the Lakers or like some of the other teams that's traditional.
It's just too new.
Even though they have,
Okay.
I will concede this, even if I say, Skip, they have the best player in Kevin Durant, it's still newness. KD only been there 3 years.
I got it. Plus, they used to be the New Jersey Nets, and I think they had a tiny, strong contingent of faithful,
Right.
but it hasn't grown yet to the magnitude. Golden State has some America's team going on because Steph Curry is clearly the most popular player in basketball.
Likeable, Skip. He's an
I think
average
he's
guy.
beyond even LeBron in extreme lovability, just lovability, because to your point, which you always make, he's just a little guy who could just shoot the lights out like in ways we've never seen before. So we all, even little white guys like me, can just look up to Steph and say, I think I could do some of that, maybe.
Right.
You can actually relate to little Steph.
Yes.
Although he's not that little at 6'3", but in the grand scheme of NBA
he ain't 7
things.
foot. He ain't 6'9",
He ain't 7 foot.
260.
Okay, so here's what happened. This game goes back and forth, and would you believe with 33 seconds left in the second quarter, just before halftime, would you believe that the Brooklyn Nets, who are about to get blown off the map, would you believe they still led this game 58-57? And Steph didn't happen. Andrew Wiggins oh yeah, they still got Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, the first pick in the draft. He's not averaging what he used to average. He's 18-4, so he feels like a little bit of just a cog in the system, but he's still capable of exploding.
Well, you see, he's had games, Skip, where he go get 38, he'll go get 40. He's very capable of having a game like that.
So what does he do? He hits 2 huge threes down the stretch of the first half, and all of a sudden you look up, and at halftime, wait a second, the Warriors are up 5. And then they come out in the third quarter, which they have owned like never before, like no one's ever owned.
They're the opposite of the Lakers.
They are. They're the opposite of the Lakers. They are. They are the polar opposite because the Lakers go polar cold in the third quarter. Would you believe that the Nets have outscored the opposition? They've only played, 12-2, so they've only played like 14 games.
The Warriors.
14 games. Would you believe they've outscored the opposition by 124 points in a pretty early season sample size? 124 points in just the third quarter alone. Next on that list is Charlotte has outscored its opponents in the third quarter by 50. So 124 versus 50. Well, now we're having flashbacks to the great old days Warriors who dominated the league even pre-KD, right? The dynastic, the early dynasty. Okay, so all of a sudden, Wiggins comes out in the third quarter, and he goes layup and then pull-up jumper on a semi-fast break, and all of a sudden, they're up 9 in a game that felt like it was a teeter-totter game,
you know? Because it was going back and forth.
Okay, it was. And then Steph goes out at the 7-minute mark of the third quarter when they're up 13, and they just keep going. They go on an 18-5 run, and then they close out the quarter in which they won at 35-18, and the game is over with Steph just sitting. He had some foul trouble. It wasn't like horrendous, threatening foul trouble, but he just sat the rest of the last 5 minutes. And then back to the fourth quarter, Steph plays the first 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, and I am convinced it's all because of Kevin Durant. They just wanted to say, we are going to just drive the stake through your heart here, even though we're still in November, we're still in an early regular season game, and he went 3 of 4 from 3 in the fourth quarter. So if we could just see, just to drive home how driven he was last night, to your point and your prediction point, could we just see all of his 9 threes? This is the 37th time in his career he's made 9 threes. These are deep.
Yes.
And they're mostly nothing but net. And he's shooting them in rhythm on the fly. That one caught a little bit of iron.
I mean, look where he's putting up from the logo with a guy with a hand in his face.
That was nothing but net.
Look at this.
Look, that is deep. And when he's doing that, it just feels like game over. And he doesn't do it every night, but when he gets going like this, you just don't have much of a shot. Look at this. That's a little up and under pump fake before.
I mean, they ain't hitting no rim. That ain't number net, Skip. That ain't number splash.
That's deep and nothing but net. I mean, it's just, the cord just tickles, right?
Look at it.
And here we go on a semi-break, and now we're into the fourth quarter threes, and that's it. Okay,
I'd have called timeout and say, I'd have called timeout for Steve Nash. What you want me to do with that? You see what that man pulling up from? He in the parking lot shooting threes.
Okay. Conversely, flip side, third quarter for my man, Kevin Durant. He had simply the worst shooting quarter of his entire career. He goes 0 for 8. And he said after the game, I started to press. I started to rush because it's just falling apart before your very eyes. What did Golden State do to him that obviously Brooklyn did not do to Steph? Well, they started playing junk defenses in the second quarter. They start playing box and 1. They played a little bit of triangle and 2 on him and Patty Mills. Remember, Joe Harris turned his ankle, so he was out. They could have used him last night because you just need a little off-the-ball help.
Yeah, you need some space in the floor.
Okay, and yet Kevin is just trying to beat a double team every time because it's box and 1 with lots of help.
Right.
Okay, could we see his 8 straight misses in the second quarter? This is how bad. I've never seen him rush and be as off as this because that's nothing but backboard right there. Barely.
That's a rush shot right there.
Yeah, that's rushed. And then he usually makes that. He was fine in the first quarter. He made both his threes, and that was wide left. And then gets a pretty good feed from Harden and missed it. It wasn't really even close. And now he's really rushing. I got to make one, and it's short and out of bounds off nets. And then here he is. I thought he had that one for sure, and it's short. And he just is completely out of kilter, couldn't get the handle on the basketball as he went up to shoot it. And here you go. That's just usually money from mid-range. And that's 0 for 8 in the third quarter. And obviously, we haven't seen that before.
But Skip,
and it had a lot to do with Golden State's defensive intensity.
It had a lot to do with what happened. That little fella, you say he's not too little, but he's 6'3". You saw what he was doing. Ooh. And it's just like anything, Skip. You see, what did they try to do to T.O.? If you playing Randy Moss, let's get Randy Moss the ball. And that way we're going to double T.O., get him frustrated. He going to start the press.
Yeah. You're talking about San Francisco at Minnesota?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, I was there. I covered the game.
Anytime he's playing another receiver on the opposite side, let's get him the ball early. Let's double T.O., get him frustrated.
That was the game that after the game, T.O. mounted his soapbox in the locker room because I was right in the front row, and he campaigned for Tim Rattay to replace Jeff Garcia because he was so frustrated because Randy Moss had just shown him up by showing out.
And that's the thing. So what they did, Steph Curry gets going. Steve Kerr said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play a box and 1. We'll play a zone. We'll chase KD throughout the zone and make it tough on him. And then now he starts to press because he feels the game start to slip away. And you're right. Shots that I've seen, every shot that KD missed, I've seen him make that shot at least 5 times this year. But for whatever reason, he's doing Skip, he's doing off game. The guy's been averaging 29, damn near 30 a game.
Leading the league.
He do one game off.
Okay, I got it. But he wasn't having a bad game until that happened in the third quarter. And I will give you this. Golden State is deep. In long, skilled, high-energy basketball players who come off that bench, starting with Gary Payton Jr., and they just get up into you. And they play so hard and so smart on defense that the shock waves of it, because they just come in waves at you, because even Kuminga will come off the bench, Bielitsa's coming off the bench. They're long and they're smart. And their defense, well, you said they're number one in defensive efficiency, and it has a lot to do with the depth of it.
Right.
The waves of defenders that they can keep sending at you, and they just play so smart and hard for Steve Kerr.
They do. They got Skip, and you look at, they come with Gary Payton Jr. and Iguodala and Otto Porter Jr.
Iggy's playing at a high level.
Yeah.
Every time
Anderson.
I think Iggy's about done, all of a sudden he's got a rebirth back in Golden State.
Well, he's done everywhere else except Golden State.
Except Golden State. Which brings me back to James Harden. He just doesn't look right. Obviously, he's not getting the free throw, the foul calls.
He went 10, 11 times last night, made 10 of them.
Okay, but his average is career low. He's, 6 a game from the free throw line. So obviously they have changed the way they're officiating the game of basketball at the NBA level. And he just doesn't look in shape. And I'm starting to wonder if at 32, going on 33, if he's starting to show a little sign of age. I don't see the suddenness where he can just get in the lane anytime he wants to. He now has to work hard to get into the lane, and he has to work harder to get his shot up because they're not just going to immediately blow the whistle and send him to the free throw line. So it's not looking the same for him, and all of his scoring numbers are down across the board. And he had 11 assists a game last year, and he's at 9, which is not terrible.
Not bad.
Okay, but still, he's not having the impact he had last year. The Kyrie cloud is still hanging over this team. Obviously, they would be better with Kyrie.
Of course.
They can still be very good without him as long as they have some new energy and sort of a united front that they have not been able to find without Kyrie. I think they're waiting for him to come back. I think it hurts, it haunts them. I think it distracts them psychologically, and they just weren't ready for the onslaught last night because the other team's just playing at a much higher level for 4 quarters. That they mustered up a good sort of quarter. Well, really,
they played to the half, Skipper, like you said. They played almost to the half, and then the last 30 seconds, the game kind of got away from a little bit, and then the third quarter. But that's Golden State's MO, Skip. When they were really good, when 15 and 16, what'd they do? They blitz you right out the half and blow the game wide open. And they always had the reserves. If the game was close, the reserves would come in. When you bring your reserves in, they would take off on you. So now all of a sudden, maybe a 6-point lead when Steph and Clay and Draymond would come back in, it's a 13-point lead. It's the same thing now. They have guys come in. If the game is close, they keep it close, or they'll build on the lead. But if they're up, when Steph comes back in the game, they're not going to be down.
Okay. Now, to your point about Steph going into postseasons, we'll get into this deeper a little bit later in the show. Okay. So I just want to touch on my key points here. I've seen Steph do this before. I do agree with your point. He's redefined his whole body. He's put on some good weight, some upper body weight. He's playing much stronger than he used to play. But he's just as slippery and just as crafty, and he's just as skilled at getting his shot off quickly by working. He's got that Reggie Miller going on, and they love him. They feel him. Draymond has a deep connection with him.
Draymond, you can blindfold Draymond, and he'll know exactly what
Steph. He'll find Steph, and Steph, as you well know, he only needs about a third of a second to to catch it and shoot it, right?
It's getting up.
Okay. So I've seen all this before, and it's at the highest level it's ever been. I give you all the above. He's now on an arc where he could easily win his 3rd MVP this year. Steve Kerr could win Coach of the Year because this is quite a turnaround for them, right?
If they continue on this path, Steve Kerr better be unanimous Coach of the Year.
All right. I still haven't forgiven Steph for, number one, what he didn't do against you guys. Because in those last 3 games, they're up 3-1 against your Cavaliers in 2016. And games 5, 6, and 7, remember, 2 of them are at home, 5 and 7. Was Steph not the best player? Obviously, Kevin wasn't there yet.
Right.
So was Steph yes, he was the best player. Well, in those games, the 5, 6, and 7, look at the fourth quarters. He shot 6 of 20 combined. He shot 3 of 12 from 3. And if we just go to the fourth quarter of Game 7, this is his defining moment, his defining game against Kyrie and LeBron. He goes 6 of 19 from the floor in Game 7. He goes 4 of 14 from 3. But worse, in the fourth quarter, he goes 1 of 6 from the floor and 1 of 5 from 3.
Right.
And he missed 2 huge late shots. And then to compound it against Kawhi and company in the 2019 finals, obviously they were beat up and they end up losing Clay and KD at the end. But and some people say Steph was banged up, but he had a bunch of shots in that series that could have turned the series around, and
well, he had
especially
one for the game winner.
Well, the game 6, he's the closeout game is at Oracle, and he missed the game winner. Okay, so to me, I just need to see more. Like, all this is fine. It's all well and good, and you're right. They came in with just blood in their eyes, and it has everything to do with that 7-foot monster on the other team. And we're going to show you right here, right now. And Steph played extremely high-level basketball, but we're not even to Thanksgiving yet. So I'm waiting to see, because I want to see even in the play-in game and then the first game, remember they had 2 shots.
Yeah, the Lakers, and then they played Memphis.
Well, go look at what he didn't do down the stretch of those 2 games against Lakers and then Memphis. Go look at what happened, because the Memphis games goes to overtime. He just no-showed down the stretch of both games. I'll get deeper into it, but I just need to see him come up 6 feet 3 inches big instead of smaller than he actually is.
But the only problem that I have with what you said and what people have done is that they hold 3-1 against Steph that they never held against KD. You do realize the 3-1 lead that Steph blew, he came back from 3-1 just 2 weeks earlier. And y'all don't give KD the criticism for blowing a 3-1 like you do Steph.
It's because he had the liability of Russell Westbrook. Well, and you agree with the liability factor, right?
But you go back and look at some of those games and see how poorly KD shot the ball.
I got it. Both of them. They were partners in crime.
You got to win that. But Skip, you got to win that one. You got to win that. You're up 3-1 because that was the same Russ that was turning it over at a high clip in the first 4 games in which you had a 3-1 lead.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to Golden State for now.
Got me a case of it. Got me a do-off here.
Now
You did not.
is the word
Skip, you ought to just say, you know what?
I'm not going to just give you. If you're in Vegas, do you go to the window and say, I almost won this. Would you pay me, please?
But we in Vegas, this is different type. We got different kind. We got casino, right?
So now you're looking for pity?
For now. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.